All right, what's going on, Eve? How you feeling today?
I'm doing good, a little tired. We're getting close to election day.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about the campaign this year?
Um, it's had some challenges, and the biggest challenge is the fact that um, the race that I'm working on is the only contested school board race in Buffalo. And so most of the city doesn't have a race really. There's only one person running, and that person's going to get their seat. So it's not really the talk of anyone.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the West District School Board race might be the most contested in most of Erie County. I mean, I know when I go on election day, there's really no contest for anything, but I'm in Tonawanda, so I can't speak to the city.
Well, I mean, it's really true in the city as well. There are some races, like, of course, the mayor's race we can't take for granted, but very much expect certain results from that. Same thing with the two county legislature, who are the Buffalo ones. They both have people who are running against them, but again, they are favored by quite a lot. So there's not a lot of reason for people to get out and vote.
Yeah, I think some people would feel that way. I would definitely say everyone should always vote no matter what. Even, I know, like I said, for me, I don't have a choice for most of my candidates on the ballot for town of Tonawanda. So, I mean, I'll still write in if I don't agree with the interactions I've had with some of these elected officials. Um, but I do understand exactly what you're saying. And do you think there will be kind of a low turnout for the city then?
I do think it's going to be a low turnout for the city. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I think that there will be a low turnout. I do also agree with you that everyone should vote every single election. Um, Even if you're writing in your own name for multiple seats, just go out there and vote. I explain to my students at school all the time that when people are in office, they can see who votes and what areas vote. And that the areas that have high voter turnout are the areas that get resources.
You're absolutely correct. You are. I mean, when you look at the election results, you get to see by ward and which district had the more turnout. You're 100% correct on that. So you've been going door to door, obviously with this campaign. What are you hearing from folks if they, seem concerned or what issues do they bring up?
Unfortunately, most of them haven't even been thinking about school board. That's the real thing. Is like most people aren't thinking of it. I don't like how Buffalo School Board was moved to the November election. I do agree that there was really low voter turnout when it was just school board. It's still low voter turnout because it's way at the bottom of the ballot. And most people don't even, like, they read across the line and they don't even look at what else is on there. That's why our propositions don't get as much votes. Um, but I think that what would have been better is if we had aligned it with the suburban and rural day of school board votes, where everyone's voting for their budget and everyone's voting for their school board. I I think it's in May. I'm not sure,
Yeah, that's how it is in
but
Tonawanda. I can't speak for every district. I know in Tonawanda, we definitely vote on the school board and also the school budget at the same time. I brought Eleanor with me when I voted.
parents who bring their kids with them to vote, the kids are much more likely to be voters themselves. It has to be a habit that we learn and pass on to our kids. So I really commend you for making sure that she goes with you.
Absolutely. I mean, I appreciate that. And it's important sentiment that people get out to vote. Are there any issues like in the school board that you think should have been raised in some of the forums that were had? I don't want to say that they were necessarily debates, but they were more forums from what I understand. Anything that you thought was left out that needs to be talked about?
Um, I think that there's a lot to be said about understanding public education. And although all of us have gone to schools, most of us have gone to public schools, there's still a lot to know. It's over $1 billion budget, the Buffalo School Board budget, and that's a lot to manage. And I think that people who really want to be on school board should attend Board of Education meetings, should join parent groups, should learn something before they run. And I'm not saying that people can't learn on the job, but it is a $1 billion budget. There's over 30,000 public school children that they serve, plus the families. And there's a lot at stake right now with the cuts coming down from the federal government. The school is going to have to produce more and more services just to keep our students safe and healthy. Already, the Buffalo Public Schools has teamed up to supply produce to folks who are losing SNAP benefits. And that's something that's really important. So things like that, it's a lot to know, it's a lot to learn, and you've got to be able to figure it out really fast because people are really hurting and it's going to get much worse. And just like with COVID, where things had to pivot really, really fast, and it really pivoted into feeding families. That's what the first 6 weeks of COVID was in the Buffalo Public Schools, was focused on making sure children and families ate. And now we're going back to that kind of same urgency where we have to worry about our students and their families. We have a rising level of homeless children and families in Buffalo. A lot of my personal students live in one-room hotel rooms with their whole family and travel in from as far away as Niagara Falls and Lockport to get to school in Buffalo. So as these cuts come down, these families that have been suffering are just going to continue to suffer. And so it's really important that people kind of come onto the job ready to really understand the system and make sure that they leverage the resources the best way they can.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I think that it's tough as a school board member too because they're not as paid as much as other elected officials. Um, and also they don't get as much support, I don't think, from like donation-based organizations. I think there's less of a spotlight on how important the school board is.
And that's a really big disservice. People think that the school board isn't important because unfortunately in this country we don't value children the same way we should, same way they do in a lot of countries that have more successful school systems and have better outcomes as far as children go. Um, because at the end of the day, not only is it important because we're dealing with our youth, and what we put in when they're young is what we can expect to, see in their lives later, and that affects us all as a country.
Do you think parents have responsibility with making sure that kids are able to catch up on schoolwork that is not completed or, being on top of homework? Do you think there's enough of parental responsibility?
You know what? I think that we are having a real problem in this country with the fact that people are working so much and they come home tired. There's a lot of mental health issues, there's a lot of physical health issues. And I haven't met a parent yet, and I've been teaching 24 years. I haven't met a parent yet who's like, oh, wow, I don't care about my kid. And if I do a bad job, oh, well, it is what it is. Parents love their children. Most parents love their children. I'll say it that way. Most parents love their children. It doesn't mean that you know the best way to deal with things, or that you have the capacity to really give your child everything they need. And one of the things for the greater good is public education is supposed to fill in some gaps. There are children who have parents who are deceased, parents who are incarcerated, or all kinds of situations, right? And so it's like, how do we treat our most vulnerable? And there's a lot of vulnerable young people out there. On top of that, I like to point out my generation was the first generation of so-called latchkey kids. We don't even use that term anymore because it's so prevalent. Um, but that's what it was called. And so my mom actually didn't work, but a lot of my peers, both parents worked. And so then that my generation didn't grow up with the parents necessarily at home 24/7. And then I am old enough to be a grandma. So we're talking about my kids' generation. I wasn't a stay-at-home mom at all. So I was always working. And then we have this third generation now that is in school right now. And not only did their parents not have a parent at home, but their grandparents didn't have a parent at home. So we're really talking about a whole giant change in lifestyle. And that means that with that, it's not just that parents, like a lot of parents don't even think about reading to their kid because their parents didn't read to them. These are habits that we pass down. And if we don't pass down these traditions, then we can't expect them to just reemerge out of nowhere. We have to teach people, you know, certain practices. And I think that right now we're experiencing a lot of problems in the country, and a lot of people don't just are tired and overworked and don't know what they don't know.
Well, I thank you for all the work that you've done as a teacher. I know that I was grateful for the way that my daughter's kindergarten teacher was able to break down the words with the fun little pointer finger. And it's not always easy to be able to connect academic material in a fun way, especially as being a parent trying to juggling the daily tasks and work. So I understand exactly what you are saying.